It is springtime. Literally the weather, it's springtime here, but we're actually going to be talking about springs today. Springs are the biggest repair we do typically on garage doors. I tell people that eventually everybody gets springs. This is the time we want to talk about a little of the science of springs and how they work, how they function, and how we do things here at Gecko Garage Doors. Springs are a mystery to many people of actually what makes them work and how make them work properly. It's also the biggest issue we run into on doors is we find out they have the wrong springs on them. It's a big problem in our industry, whether it's insufficient inventory on the trucks or just a lack of knowledge. A lot of times we find there's guys out there that just put something on and make it work, and it may work and it may work okay, but having the wrong size springs does cause a lot of issues long term. So having the wrong size springs means the door will either be heavy at the floor, meaning it's too heavy to pick up or heavier than it should be, or what we call hot at the head, where it's heavy or hard to pull it down. So your opener, or even if it's on manual, you're having to work harder than you normally would because the spring that's on there isn't the right size. So the very core of a spring is it needs to unwind at the right rate while the weight is coming off the door. The doors come up and they come up over the tracks, and as that's happening, they're getting lighter. So those springs have to unwind at the right pace so that the door is as balanced as possible and in as many places as possible. We did want to bring out a couple of examples just so that you can get an idea of why it can get kind of tricky when you're calculating springs. And I'll get into some of the tools that we have that we use because we really emphasize that our guys get the right, correct springs on the doors because it makes a huge difference in the longevity of all of the parts on the door. So here I have a couple of springs, which if I pick these up, if you can see them all, there is a giant difference in the physical size of these springs. If I ask somebody which one of these can lift more weight, they would probably guess that this one lifts far more weight than this one. The truth is these are both rated for 95 pounds of lift weight on a 7-foot high door. The big difference is when you have a big spring working less hard than a small spring working really hard doing the same job is life cycles. So the life expectancy. So this would be what we would call a standard spring. We typically order our springs. We want a minimum of a 15,000 cycles. Most people use 15,000 cycles on their door in about 8 to 12 years, depending on if you're a heavy user or a normal user. 2 or 3 cycles a day, opening and closing the door. This would be a standard spring. Ours are a little bit longer life than what we found a lot of our competitors. They typically do a 10,000 cycle spring. We like the 15,000 cycle spring. We do find people use their door more than you imagine. This is what we call our lifetime spring. So we would use this in replacement of this to move up to 80,000 cycles. Actually 82,000 cycles specifically is what was calculated for a 7-foot high door. The height of the door does make a difference on how you calculate. You can use the same spring, but it does bring the cycle life down a little bit because you have to wind them up a bit more for a 8-foot is becoming more of a standard. We use specialty tools to make sure we're using the right size spring. So the things that we use is a scale. We have these digital scales. This is Bluetooth to the scale so they can have it up on the ladder or wherever they're standing so we can put the door on the scale and get the actual weight of the door. Once we have that, we've got apps that we use that we calculate and get the spring size that we need, whether we're trying to get a 15-year spring or an 82-year spring or something in between. Sometimes we do custom springs for special applications, but we won't know what to put on without having a true weight of the door. So if at any point, any other technicians or companies out there, if they're not weighing the door, the best thing that they're doing is an educated guess. And you would hope they're really good at it because if they're guessing, they may or may not tell you if they got it right. But here we wanted to make sure that we weren't guessing, that we have the tools to do the job the correct way the first time. We definitely hit it home in our training that all the technicians are required to check the door, make sure it's balanced properly, make sure we got the right thing on there. And once in a while, whether these were mismarked or if the scale was wrong, if they check it at the end and it ain't right, we do it again. It's just how we don't leave a door misbalanced or misapplied springs. We do offer other specialty tools to help keep our technicians safe. Not all of them use these, but this is a Surewinder. It's a specialty tool that they can use to get those springs wound up more easily and safer. Seasonally, we find we get more spring breakage. We have a theory that when a spring is near the end of its life, so the bending it back and forth over 10, 20, 30 years weakens the steel. But we also found that when the temperature shifts quite a bit, so you go from a really warm day where the metal expands to a really cool night where it shrinks, that typically is what sends it over the edge. It was already worn out, but that just puts a little extra stress that ends up breaking it. So we get a lot of spring breaks and replacements in the same period of time. It's sort of seasonal. We do them all year long, but in the spring and in the fall when our temperatures have quite a bit of variability. I mean, we had 92 degrees during the day and I think it was like 51 or something at night. I mean, 40 degrees swing does usually take out an older spring. So don't be surprised if, we have those cooler nights and you're like, my spring broke. It's pretty common, but we definitely stay well staffed and we're used to having this sort of large influx of springs coming in all at once. As you can see behind me, we stock lots of springs. Springs are critical for you to get in and out of your garage, and we want to make sure that we have the proper technicians available and the supplies available to get you back open and closed going as quickly as possible.